Welcome back for part two. Part two, we're going to start with trade. Trade in ancient Greece, the agora, or the marketplace, was the center of commerce, or trading, and the government for ancient Athens. It was a place for people to meet and discuss ideas on philosophy and government. They would hold debates, which were discussions where people with opposing views would argue their point on issues that affected the people and the government of Athens. Voting also took place in the agora. All of the city-states of Greece became known for their olives, olive oil, pottery, I was about to say poetry, throughout the Mediterranean world. Greek vases have been found as far away as China to the east and England and Spain to the west. The Greeks used their surplus, we know that word from last week, means extra, more than you need, to trade for items not found in the Greek peninsula. Lumber from modern-day Lebanon, silk from China, and the purple dye from the Phoenicians, to name just a few items they traded for. It's okay, buddy. It's okay. It's okay. Explain how you believe trade impacted the ancient Greeks. So think about positive things from trade. So positive, I don't want to be highlighted. Positive would be good things. You get items that you need and trade your surplus. So if you have too much of something, negative, think about some negatives of trade. Sometimes you get invaders, kind of like it's dangerous. Nobody wants to talk about this now, but diseases spread with trade. So that's going to be something that's going to cause some problems for the Greeks and the rest of Europe later this year. Now, if you guys had other ideas for that, absolutely. But those are just the two that came to mind for me. Now we're going to talk a little bit about philosophy. So a philosopher is someone who studies ideas about knowledge, truth, and the meaning of life. They are deep thinkers who seek wisdom and enlightenment. Greek philosophers studied and analyzed the world using logic and reason. These philosophers were also scientists, mathematicians, and studied physics as well. So what is logic and reason? So logic and reason is when you basically have a reason, in theory, behind what you're doing. So what is it? It's having a, that's a hard one. I'm trying to make you think deep, and now I'm trying to think about what answer I want you to put here. It's having a plan, and I'm really going to say reasons for doing something or why it works. So if I had to use logic and reason to get this assignment done, means I know I need to do it. If I get it done, I'm going to get a good grade. And so I'm using logic to just get it done. Just do it. I know I might not want to, but the logic and reason part of me knows that it's going to help me in the long run. So I have a plan, and there's reasons for doing something, and we know why it works. I don't know if that's the best answer Miss Gray has, but that's what I have for this recording. I think Ethan's distracting me. Sorry. So now we're going to talk about Socrates. Socrates was the first major Greek philosopher. He came up with the Socratic method. He would answer a question with another question. This was his way of studying. This way of studying problems discovers the truth through discussion. Have you ever had a teacher ask you a question? They're not doing it because they don't know the answer. We're doing it to see if you understand the answer. And then if you give an answer and your teacher says, well, how did you think about that? That's, again, not because we don't know the answers, even though sometimes we might not. We really want to see if you know the answer and get a discussion going to make sure you really understand it. Socrates introduced the political philosophy, getting the Greeks to think hard about morals. And morals are the differences between good and evil and how society as a whole should work. Socrates taught his students to question the government and the gods. So the Socratic method is, good job, buddy, answering a question with another question. Think about teachers with that. And then this next part about Socrates says the government of Athens thought that Socrates was corrupting, trying to change from good to bad in morals, manners, or actions his students by his way of thinking. He was arrested and put on trial. He was given a choice to either leave Athens, which would seem like an admission of guilt or wrongdoing, or drink hemlock, which was a type of poison. Socrates believed so much in what he was teaching his students that he decided to drink the poison. He decided to die for his beliefs. So he started asking really hard questions about the government. He would ask people about their beliefs in God, and the gods and goddesses in Greece were something that you didn't question. And Socrates was not trying to be disrespectful. He was truly trying to have a deeper meaning of people. So he would ask the government leaders, why do you think you should be in charge? What qualifies you? Are you a good leader? Are you a fair leader? And then he would ask people, think about how hard it is when you ask someone, like, why do you believe in God or gods, goddesses? People didn't like those questions because there's not a concrete answer. So Socrates, of course, kept asking more questions, which made people more nervous. So he was given the choice to drink the poison or leave Athens. He chose to drink the poison because in his mind, if he left Athens, it would be admitting that he was doing something wrong. And he did not think asking questions to learn more was something that was wrong. So to prove a point, to stand in his beliefs, he drank the poison. He did it in a public area, probably like the Agora. A lot of his students were there. And I'm still teaching about him. So obviously his impact, the idea of questioning the Socratic method, still lives on today. So his students were inspired to carry on his mission, his goal. So what happened to Socrates? He was sentenced to drink poison. Oh, spelled that wrong. And died for his beliefs. And this was a big deal because the next philosopher that we're going to talk about, Plato, was a student of Socrates. He wrote about how the government should rule their people. In his most famous work, The Republic, Plato wrote using dialogue, which was people having a conversation with each other. His book discussed what power the government should have and what type of people should be rulers. He said the best rulers would be a philosopher king. He argued, there is a race car up there. He argued a philosopher king would be just and fair to all. Eventually, Plato started his own school called the Academy, where he taught students, including the great philosopher Aristotle. So, what is Plato known for? He's known for a few things. I think he's probably most famous for The Republic, which was a book. He wrote about the government, his philosopher king idea on government, and then the Academy, so his school. We're almost done, guys. Aristotle is the last one, and it says, although Aristotle was a student of Plato, he disagreed with him on many things. For example, Aristotle did not share Plato's view on who should rule a civilization. Aristotle liked to focus on more practical areas of philosophy like science. He spent a lot of time thinking about how people's actions and decisions affected others. He is also going to be the one that teaches Alexander the Great that we will talk about next week. So, which philosopher would you travel back in time to meet and why? I can't tell you the answer to this. I think I would obviously choose Socrates because he was one of the first great teachers of history. And I would just love to know what types of questions he asked. What was he really trying to find the answer to? But that's just me. If you guys had Plato, maybe you wanted to know more about the philosopher king idea, Aristotle, maybe you want to ask him about Alexander the Great. I don't know. See what you guys think. Oh, I should probably finish reading his section. He taught his students to use reason. He strongly believed that people should live a life of moderation, which meant you should have You don't need more than what you have, which is going to be very true when we talk about Alexander the Great and how he rules as a leader. Sorry, should have kept reading that. So that question's you're on your own. Last section. Whoop whoop. Cultural achievement. So some of the things that made Greece so famous. After Greece defeated the Persians, which was a rival empire of the Greeks, there was a boom in cultural activity. There were all kinds of new ideas, writings, sculptures, and information available in Greece. They continued to make advancements in areas such as science, politics, history, art, architecture, and biology. This period is known as the Hellenic period or the Golden Age of Greece. Greek writings usually centered on history, mythology, or philosophy. Genres or types such as tragedy and comedy found great expression through the Greeks' writing and their theater. I'm sure you know this, but a tragedy is a story or a play in which something tragic or bad happens, usually ending in death. A Greek comedy was typically a story or play in which the author poked fun at a famous politician, philosopher, or someone else well known. I apologize, Ethan's being extra noisy as I record this. Yes, you, buddy. Greek sculptures focused on idealism. Idealism is showing a subject as perfect. So obviously, if you were doing a sculpture of me, I would have wonderful long brown hair. I would have no gray hairs, no wrinkles, no bags under my eyes. It would be making me look ideal, as perfect as I truly am. Just kidding, that sounded so bad. But that is how the Greeks did art. So they were very idealistic. Things had to be perfect to them. And Greek architecture is the most famous of the developments, which were, hold on, let's start that sentence again. Greek architecture is most famous for the development of the post or the column and the lintel, which is the horizontal support beam. These were used when the buildings, these were used when building their temples. The post would support the lintel. The form of architecture has stood the test of time and is still widely used today. I'm going to go handle Ethan. I'll be right back. So here you can see the Parthenon. You can see the lintels are these horizontal, so they go long ways. And then the post goes up and down. So there were 3 different types. And guys, I just want you to have an idea about them. I do not think you need to memorize them or stress yourself out over them. So you have the Doric pillars, which are these basic ones. Very dull, very plain. Then you have the Ionic, which were a little bit fancier. They say they have these like eyes of the snake, like in the Jungle Book. And then you have the Corinthian, which are really fancy, decorative, a lot of detail. Some of the buildings we have in the United States have these different types of post and lintel system, these pillars. Some of your houses might even have pillars. A lot of churches have pillars. A lot of government offices have pillars. So they're still widely used today. So Greek culture has had a significant influence over Western art and let's do architecture. Let's finish that sentence. If you guys want to fix it, you can. I'm going to see if I can get this picture to come down here for me. There it is. And then what you guys should have for your last question is pick one achievement from ancient Greece and explain how it's important to today's society. So basically you can pick architecture. So you can pick the arches. Nope, not arches, the pillars. So you can pick the different pillars that we still use in our governments and our government offices. You can talk about the architecture. You can talk about idealism and art. You can talk about comedies and tragedies. You can even talk about different sculptures. We didn't get a lot into mythology, which I'm sure made a lot of you upset, but that is definitely an achievement and something that they wrote a lot of plays about. So, which of those achievements do you think is the most important and why? No right or wrong answer, just your opinion.